Hello and good afternoon, Xbox Nation. Welcome to this week's new episode of the Xbox Factor podcast. I'm your host, Mr. BoomStick XL. And listen, I thought I was going to have to do this podcast by myself because a lot of people had a lot of issues. Today is one of those days, folks, in podcasting that you wake up and the day seems fresh and new and ready to rock and roll. And then you get a bunch of DMs from people that just, real life gets in the way. And, well, listen, we have N64 Josh, who is excited as all H because, well, Bayonetta 3 releases on Friday. I know he can't wait to play, as well as myself. I have the collector's edition. I believe he does as well.
Oh, yeah.
So N64 Josh, welcome, brother. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have a lot of amazing topics to get into.
I can't wait. I'm so glad to be here. I've been off for 2 weeks and, back at it again. We were a little nervous before Daniel showed up. It was like, we're going to be bouncing this back and forth. Just the two of us, right? Oh, wait, don't want to get the MCA.
Well, listen, it's great. It's great to have you back. And like I said, we have a lot of great topics. We got almost 100 people already here. We haven't even started with the topics. But Daniel, welcome back, brother. Have you finished your biggest video in the history of your channel?
Oh, I've started recording it.
Okay.
Finished is another story, but it's gonna be a minute.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm really excited for today's show. It's good to have Josh back. I think he's the only known survivor of the TwitchCon foam pit. So should be
yes. Well, listen, it is definitely great to have you here. And what we are going to be doing, folks, is just to keep you up to date. Is Boxenberger and Wandering Dutch have a special edition podcast going on right now where they're sitting down and interviewing the developers from Deliver Us the Moon. They have a new game. They have to follow up the sequel coming out this year, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And if you haven't played Deliver Us the Moon, it was phenomenal. So hopefully, when they're done with that interview, they will then bounce back over to here, and then we will have a full panel at our disposal. But I definitely want to thank the 100 plus people that are here already. And listen, guys, let's get into it. And this is a subjective topic. This is one that I have been banging the drum since the inception of the acquisition. And I'm talking about Obsidian. Obsidian Entertainment is probably, if I may be so bold as to say, in the top 3 of Xbox Game Studio developers. They seem to be able to multitask in a way where and again, this is just my opinion. Please challenge me in the chat. And obviously, of course, the panel members that are here. I really do look at Obsidian and I think Insomniac. And not because they're identical developers. No, that's not actually what it is. Why I put Obsidian neck and neck with something like Insomniac Games over at PlayStation Studios is because of their ability to tackle multiple projects and literally deliver on each one of them. Now, again, we just saw Grounded 1.0, a passion project, as we know, hit the streets. And folks like Randall Thor and Colt Eastwood, who never thought that they were going to get into a game like this. Speaking specifically about Randall Thor, he talked about it on the Xbox 2 podcast. He surpassed 50 hours. And he played the whole thing in co-op with Colt Eastwood, which we know Colt plays with his kids. And that in itself is awesome. But why I'm talking about Obsidian Entertainment to start today's amazing podcast is because of a Dual Shockers interview, folks. Now, look, as we know, Bethesda is hard at work at Starfield, right? And we talked about it yesterday on the Xbox Lunch Break special about all of the new things coming to that new IP. And it's going to be amazing. There's no doubt about it. But at the end of the day, we know that their next project, and it's probably the most important project to them, is going to, of course, be Elder Scrolls 6, which has been confirmed to be in current development to some extent, but is coming after Starfield releases. Now, that's probably going to take 3, 4, 5 years, maybe. So the reason why I'm running around this lap is because, well, a lot of people are calling for the new Fallout. And even, again, Randall Thor discussed, when are we going to get the next Fallout? 2030? 2031? 2032? Can the world wait that long, even with Fallout 76 being a much better game than it was when it launched? A lot of people are playing that game. It's millions and millions of people play it every day. Not my bag per se. I'm more of the traditional single player type of gamer for Fallout. But again, why we're talking about this today is because the head of the studio sat down with DualShockers during the celebration of Fallout's 25th anniversary, and Obsidian's founder, Fergus, and it's Ugerhart, I think that's how you pronounce it, shared his thoughts about the possibility of the studio making another Fallout game. And while Fergus didn't give away any specifics, he did reveal that Obsidian would love to return to the series. And folks, this is what he had to say. Of course, if we ever got the opportunity to make another Fallout game, we'd make it. There's not even a question of whether or not we would do it. It's just, will we have the opportunity, and will that opportunity arise? He said, I hung around at Interplay for probably an extra year because I wanted to work on Fallout more. I love Fallout. Josh, I'm going to go to you first on this. This is a big deal. And Boxenberger's here. There he is. Boxenberger, welcome, brother.
Hey, what's up? I'm super sorry for the delay. We were just having a short extra special episode on my channel.
I was in the chat. I was checking it out.
Yeah, with Keokin, and I had to briefly use the toilet in between the shows. So I'm very sorry for the 2-minute delay.
Well, it's great to have you back, brother. Congratulations on snagging a massive interview. I was telling the folks that that's what you were doing.
Yeah.
And Deliver Us the Moon. I don't know if you played it. I played it. I absolutely loved it. I beat it. I cannot wait for the sequel. But Josh, let's get your opinion on this. Now, Obsidian is a developer that knows how to deliver both small games and very large games. Now, we know that they're currently working on The Outer Worlds 2. They're currently working on Avowed, which had a bit of a change of direction, as it's been known, which we know they're gonna deliver on that. We know that Grounded 1.0 is out there. They're going to continue supporting that game. Does this studio have the manpower and the prowess to deliver a new Fallout? Because we know that Bethesda is not going to be able to do that simply because it's all hands on deck for Starfield, and then, of course, the Elder Scrolls right after. Would you like to see a new Vegas 2?
Oh God, I'm so glad there's more people here than just me, because I have never played a single Fallout game at all, unless you count Fallout Shelter.
I don't understand. Look, I'm going. Where's the camera? I'm going to the injection button right now. Hold on a second. Eject.
That being said, though, they absolutely are the team for it, right? This is I have played some Outer Worlds, and so the little bit that I remember, I had a buddy bring Fallout 3 over and was like, and I was like, oh, this is like apocalyptic Skyrim. I get it, I'm here for it. I've just never sat down and actually played them. They seem like they would be the perfect choice. Do they have enough manpower? That's a great question. I mean, they can always add to the team, right? Their studios, seem to be closing on the regular, and get more talent and get them built up and see what the passion's obviously there, and because they're all playing Team Xbox right now, it would be fantastic to see something like that. I know Fallout Vegas was very well loved. And so to see a sequel, I believe the fans would be all about it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this is a game that, I mean, look, I've played all the Fallouts except for the first two when it was a different perspective. I never played the original Fallouts because that was on PC and I'm not a PC gamer. If they ever re-released them or, remade them, I would probably give them a shot. But for me personally, I have put more hours into Fallout the series than many other series that surround it. Uh, Fallout New Vegas, in my opinion, folks, is probably one of my favorite in the entire series. Not because Obsidian is the best developer.
Yeah.
The story that they told, though, is amazing. And like I said, Bethesda, no slouch at all. I would imagine that if they do deliver on a Fallout 5, that it's going to be amazing. But personally, I don't think that they have the manpower to deliver a Skyrim 6 on top of what they're already doing with Starfield. That's going to need to be, maintained. I would love to see Obsidian take on the responsibility of bringing us another Fallout that could release in a couple of years, maybe 3-4 years, but it certainly would be before Bethesda can get around to doing it. Daniel, let's get your opinion on this, brother. Where do you personally fall on seeing Obsidian return to Fallout in the form of potentially a sequel to one of the most beloved Fallouts?
I mean, it would be like a dream come true. You know what I mean? I'm pretty much the opposite of Josh on this one. I'm a really big Fallout fan. I've played all of them. I've got I don't know if you can see this entire shelf up here is just Fallout. so I'm a little bit of a fanboy on this one. It's not surprising to hear that Fergus Urquhart wants to continue working on it, and specifically that people at Obsidian would want to continue working on it. Because Fergus was one of the people who created the Fallout franchise, right? And if you look at a lot of the people who have been hired at Microsoft over the last little while, you have most of like the big names that have worked on it, right? You've got Fergus, you've got Brian Fargo, of course, Todd Howard, and all the people at Bethesda. Like, if there's ever somebody who can put together a Fallout game, they probably already work at Microsoft. You know what I mean? So it's really exciting that this is a potential thing. And I know that Obsidian did specifically say that they're not currently working on a Fallout game, because I think whenever the anniversary came around, they were like, "Hey, just so you know, just so no one gets their hopes up, we're not working on one right now." But I will say that was, I think, before Grounded went completely out, right? It was, what do you call it when it goes out of early access? I guess launched when it became.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah,
1.0.
I guess you can it would be the soft launch technically because it was already out via the beta, if you will.
Right, and then of course Pentiment comes out like next month, and that's being written by the guy who wrote and I think directed the Fallout New Vegas. So if they wanted to, they could potentially start working on Fallout as soon as like next month. Now, of course, that would still mean that it would be years before we played it.
Of course,
but
yes.
Considering that over on the Bethesda side of things, they are probably just kind of starting on Elder Scrolls 6, so they're not going to start Fallout 5 until after that.
Right.
Like, hey, any sooner we can get it, the better. You know what I mean? And I've heard this. A couple of content creators have been sort of pushing for this new idea of Microsoft opening a brand new like Fallout studio, right, in the vein of like the Coalition for Gears or 343 for Halo. I think I specifically heard it from Mr. Matty Plays, who's fantastic. And I think that's a really great idea. But what I would say might work slightly better is Bethesda already has like multiple studios. Right. I think they should just staff those up, right? So they have the Dallas studio, the Maryland studio. I think there's another one in Texas. I don't know exactly where. I think Austin, maybe.
Yeah, I believe it is the Austin division as well. Yes.
Yeah. So if they staffed all of those up to be able to complete one of the games by themselves, then it's like, well, Maryland can be the Elder Scrolls one, and Dallas could be the Fallout one, right? They've certainly got the money to staff up. I'm sure that Microsoft would be thrilled to let them do so. But yeah, to bring it back to the original question, the idea of Obsidian making a new Fallout would be amazing. I think most people agree that New Vegas is the best Fallout game, right?
I agree. I would agree easily with that. I loved 3, and I thought 4 was really good, but I don't think I found it as engrossing as I did New Vegas.
Right. New Vegas was the best. Yeah,
I love 3 and 4, but New Vegas is just kind of on a different level.
Indeed.
And there's a reason why those games, even though we haven't, I mean, Skyrim is the same way. We haven't gotten a new Elder Scrolls since 2011. We haven't gotten a new Fallout since 2014, 15. You know what I mean? Like, it's been a minute, but people still play those games every single day because they still hold up.
Yep. Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And you know something, it's pretty interesting because we did get some Fallout news that Fallout 4 is getting a free upgrade package for the new consoles, which we're going to be talking about on Thursday. I'm going to be sitting down with Risk It for the Biscuit, and we're going to talk about that specifically because it's another part of the big conversation that has dominated podcasting for the entire 2022 campaign, and that is the acquisition of Activision Blizzard. And one of the things that's interesting and what we're going to get into is Microsoft or Bethesda is going to be releasing this patch that brings Fallout 4 to not only PC and Xbox, but specifically PlayStation for the price of free in regards to their upgrade, bringing it to current gen consoles, which is the Xbox Series XS and the PlayStation 5. Unlike PlayStation, that charges. So we're going to break that down. But Boxenberger, Eternal Shaddai in the chat says something pretty interesting, and it goes in line with what Daniel McGee was saying. The one thing that Microsoft has an infinite amount of, and that is money. And they have the ability to allow for, generated work email that suggests, hey, we're building a new studio. Would you be interested in working specifically on, let's say, the next Fallout, right? And he says this in the chat that I find very interesting. And when you consider what he's saying here, the ramifications of a new studio built from these three is incredibly exciting. He says, can you imagine a collaboration between inXile, Obsidian, and Bethesda? Oh, shit. Indeed. So here's my question to you. First of all, we know that you love New Vegas, and that's a fact. But here's the thing. Can Bethesda wait, or can it have its fans wait 7 to 8 years further out than until we see the next Fallout? Or do you suggest that maybe, just maybe, they do build a new team specifically to work on this?
I truly hope it's the latter one. Listen, Fallout is one of Bethesda's most beloved IPs. I think it's in between Elder Scrolls and Fallout, that's their biggest IPs. Yes, there are others like Wolfenstein or Doom, but those are the two juggernauts. And it is what it is. They introduce a third big IP from Bethesda Game Studios. Starfield is the next game. We know that since 2019, they have been working in the concept phase for Elder Scrolls 6. And Todd Howard said after Starfield comes out, they go into full production. So that, you can do the math. That will be another at least 3 to 4 years until Elder Scrolls 6 is going to see the light of the day. And after that, it's time for another Fallout. So we are talking here about somewhere mid next gen. So I'm talking here like the Xbox Series X2. And probably it's going to be a launch title for the enhanced version of the Xbox Series X2. So we're really talking here like 2032, 2033, something in that ballpark.
I actually did say that. I said that 2032, which is that's ridiculous.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. And it's a bit too big of an IP to let it sleep that long. Fallout is still a phenomenal game. Yes, we have Fallout 76, but that's also kind of aging now. Yeah, that we enter the next gen and we see those next gen games and everything. So, yeah, what to do with Fallout? If there is a passionate team like Obsidian that have made the best Fallout game to date, yeah, why not give them the chance to do it? I mean, that's what Xbox always said. We want the developers to develop the games they want to make. And they literally came out and said, we'd love to do a Fallout 2 or a new Fallout game. So I truly hope they will give them the chance, because Obsidian, and I've said that before, is Microsoft's Insomniac. They are like a very well-oiled machine. They know how to develop games on a schedule. They literally said they aim for at least one release each year. And we've seen that. We've seen that with Grounded and Pentiment. Granted, not the biggest games to date. But yeah, next year, probably a WoW. Then we get Outer Worlds 2. Why not add another team in that very well-oiled machine that tackles Fallout? I don't think that Microsoft wants to let a Fallout sleep as long as they did Elder Scrolls. Like Elder Scrolls is now, Skyrim is now 11 years old.
Yeah, I was going to say it's over a decade now. Yep.
Yeah, and by the time the next one comes out, we're talking 15, 16 years in between, two main entries of that franchise or that IP. You don't want to do that to Fallout as well. It's not a good idea to do that, because by the time Elder Scrolls 6 comes out, you have already a complete new generation of gamers. Like literally half of the gamers at that point don't even know what an Elder Scrolls game is. Yeah,
I agree.
And Fallout is just too big for that. And that being said, again, if you look at Obsidian, they really know how to develop games, especially RPGs. Yeah, the writing is exceptional. The RPG mechanics are exceptional. The world building is exceptional. They are a massive juggernaut that Microsoft has in their roster, and now they want to make a Fallout game. So it only makes sense to give it to them and say, go nuts, go crazy, do what you want with the IP. And I truly hope that this comes to fruition.
Yeah, I mean, listen, obviously the founder of Obsidian has already claimed that they want to do a Fallout outside of already what they're currently working on. And they're working on, obviously, a lot of projects. It would be, I think, in Microsoft's best interest not to allow an IP to sit for another decade. I think that the fact that I think what makes it easy for them to make this decision is the fact that you have ESO, which of course is the Elder Scrolls Online, and Fallout 76, which is a game. Both games are service games, right? Both games generate a significant amount of money, even though they're both free to play. They're constantly updating them, which is great. But at the same time, like, I don't play ESO. I've never wanted to play ESO. I bought Fallout 76. I put a couple hours into it. And when I played it, it was terrible. I haven't gone back because that's not my bag. I'm more of a single player guy. But to me, it almost seems like a missed opportunity when you have the three greatest RPG makers, Western RPG makers, in Obsidian, in Exile, and Bethesda.
Probably Playground. We have to add Playground to that list, Boom, now as well. Yeah.
Hopefully, yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, you know what? You absolutely can add them. But the thing is this: with a company as big as Microsoft, with as many IPs as they have at their disposal, Fallout being one of the bigger ones, can you afford to wait another 5 years? No. The answer is no. So, again, I'm not a a project manager. I don't work for Microsoft. I'm just a podcaster, right? But I have to put it out there for everyone to potentially, discuss and conversate, is the fact that, listen, when you have this many studios and this many people in these said studios, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to want to generate an email and say, hey, listen, put it out there. Microsoft it prides themselves of letting people create what they want. You mean to tell me you couldn't find 100 staffers in between these 3 studios that want to work specifically on the next Fallout? Potentially a sequel to one of the most beloved Fallouts? I think that would be filled up within a day. People would be like, I'll definitely, even if I have to move. And the way the world is now, you working from home, you don't even have to relocate like it was 10, 15 years ago. And I think that is why they need to make this happen. They need to allow for their internal teams to potentially come together, even if they're from different parts of the world, to make the next Fallout. I think it's a missed opportunity, but let's hope that we're not waiting for the another 5 or 6 years before we get a proper single player Fallout. I think that would be a big mistake. Hopefully Microsoft doesn't make that. But listen, folks, I have to catch up on the super chats, and then we're going to get to the next topic. But listen, what's in front of you right now is Modern Warfare 2. I am absolutely loving it. I'm playing on Hardened, which you're going to see I die a lot. Like, it is incredibly difficult. I don't remember. I've beaten the game on everything except for realistic in the 2019 one, and I got almost every achievement in the game. I want to get all the achievements in this as well. But yeah, I'm quite enjoying this. But I gotta tell you, and I said it yesterday on the Xbox lunch break special, what has me bedazzled, if you will, is Gotham Knights. Like, I am so enthralled with that game. 30 frames or not, I don't care what anyone tells you. The game is amazing.
Man, I'm still so torn about Gotham Knights. I know I shouldn't give a damn about the 30 FPS thing. I could also just play it on my PC. But on the other hand, I don't want to reward that kind of behavior from developers. But then it's Batman, dude. I'm still so torn whether to get it or not.
Look, there's so many games currently that we're all playing. Like listen, it's on Xbox, on PC, on PlayStation, on Nintendo. There are so many games that I don't think that if you wait for a sale and you pick it up for $30, that you're a terrible person. Plague's Tale, Call of Duty, Persona 5, you have Bayonetta at the end of the week. I mean, there is just so many games. Mario and Rabbids 2 released earlier this week. It's just crazy how many games have come out. So if you wait on it and you pick it up for $30, that's honestly not that big of a deal. But I am here to tell you that I'm absolutely loving it. I love the story. I love the graphics. The 30 frames does not bother me at all. The fighting is phenomenal. I don't know what to say, but let me catch up on the super chats, and then we'll get to topic number 2. Drawn TJ, generous friend of the program, drops a $5 super chat and says, "Morning, guys. The Age of Empires 25th anniversary live stream starts in an hour. It better come with console." Yes, I believe there's going to be a console announcement of some sorts, because Aaron Greenberg actually said in his tweet, being somewhat cryptic, regardless of where you play, you should tune in, which indicates they're going to announce it. And I mean, we all expected that they were going to announce it. It's one of Boxenberger's favorite games of last year.
And I have 360 hours in H4 already. And if they release a console port now, I will be gone for another 360 hours. It's that good, guys. It's that good. You
like what you like, and it is absolutely not. I have never played one, and I'm going to give it the old college effort for sure. Eternal Shaddai, who's been a member for 6 months, said, I'm repeating what he said before. Can you imagine a collaboration of the kings of RPGs between inXile, Obsidian, and Bethesda? Great show, Boom. Thanks so much for that, brother. And yes, I love the idea. I'd love to see a new team, a Fallout team made from these 3 epic RPG makers. I think it would be amazing. We have Game Players HUD Zero, who's been a member for 13 months. Thank you so much for that. He says, "Hey, Boom and panel, Fallout New Vegas 2 should be a shoo-in. Bethesda and Obsidian is on the same team. N64 Josh needs to get on Fallout New Vegas ASAP." Yes, you do, Josh. Yes, you have to play that game. We also have Drawn TJ, drops an additional $5 super chat and says, "Boxenberger, you missed my super chat in your podcast. I said hi and good morning."
Man, I feel terrible. It sometimes happens. I was so focused on the list of questions that I must have missed it. I'm super sorry. Drawn TJ, I'm going to give you a proper shout out on Thursday's World of Gaming, promise, and apologies. I feel terrible.
Yeah, I'm always like that. If I miss one, I feel guilty. But listen, it's not done on purpose. But thank you for the super chat, Drawn TJ. Sir X-Man dropped a $2 super chat and says, damn, I'm still waiting on Mecha Soul 3, please. I think we're all waiting on Mecha Soul 3. That is for sure. But listen, folks, let's get to topic number 2. Now, this one, I'm happy to have someone with the technical prowess that knows in here, Boxenberger. You know, one of the things that continue to really muck up social media, especially when it comes to developers, Boxenberger, is this constant attack on the Xbox Series S. It has been called a potato. It has been called the least wanted console by developers. But, you know, and again, this is just a couple of knucklehead developers who seem to be more PlayStation focused, and this is where their bias is now bleeding into their social media presence. It has come to my attention that you know, it was that Gotham Knights specifically was blamed for 30 frames per second versus, if you look at the actual stats from Digital Foundry, the Series S actually ran Gotham Knights better than the Series X and the PlayStation 5, which is ridiculous. My question to you, Boxenberger, is the Xbox Series S holding back the generation?
You know what holds back game development is always the lowest common denominator. And if we just look at some facts, what is the lowest performing platform that Gotham Knights can be played on? That's PC. That's the PC. Minimum specs of the PC. So if anything is holding game development back, it's PC. And it's ridiculous to say that. So listen, there's a simple and very obvious answer what was going on, and that was laziness of developers, the publishers, the managers, whatever, who gave them the time to optimize the game for the consoles. That's all. It's laziness of the studio to not develop or to not optimize for console. Nothing else. Series S is not holding anything back. If we look at the minimum specs of Gotham Knights, just look at that. It's a RTX 1600 Ti, which is a 7-year-old GPU, and it wasn't even a high-performing GPU at the time of release. So then it needs a 6-core CPU. The Series S has 8 cores. It doesn't need an SSD. We have an SSD. It only needs 6 gigabytes of RAM in the minimum specs, and the Series S is having 8. So there's literally no reasonable argument why a Series S should hold game development back. That's ridiculous. The Series S has a more performant, better CPU actually than the PS5 in it. We have a state-of-the-art SSD in that thing. We have a modern architecture for GPU, which is RDNA 2. Really doesn't matter the teraflop counts, guys. Everyone who watches my videos knows that. It's not about the pure number of teraflops. It's about the architecture that you use, and it is a state-of-the-art architecture, RDNA 2. There's literally nothing that why you would say Series S holds it back. The only thing that we could say is, obviously, developing and optimizing for one additional platform takes up a little bit more resources. Yes, obviously. The more platforms you have to develop for, the more time you need to invest in optimizing it. But since these developers didn't even care to optimize for any of the consoles, we really cannot say Series S is holding it back. It was a lackluster effort to optimize for consoles, and that's all. So yeah, boom. It's ridiculous that we still talk about this, that Series S might hold game development back, but I think it is just what it is. It's always going to be used in the console war shenanigans and in the who's got the more teraflops and the more pixel counts on screen discussion. But when you look at facts, there's literally nothing that holds game development back. And the other thing I want to say on this, Boom, because a lot of people bring that up, but the developers came out and said, well, Series S is bad. Yeah, man. Not every developer is developing on the same level, and not every developer has the same level of understanding on what is going on. And sometimes it's frustration about, or could be frustration about not getting time or resources to do the work that is required to bring your game to a certain platform and optimize for it. Sometimes it's simply not their job, like that Gotham Knights developer. It wasn't even his job to optimize it. He was like a texture artist or something. So yeah,
I have his quote in front of me. As a matter of fact, you know what? I'll read it for you verbatim because
please do so.
It sounds ridiculous. He says this: studios have been through one development cycle where Series S turned out to be an albatross around the neck of production, and now that games are firmly being developed with new consoles in mind, teams do not want to repeat the process. Now, responding to that, Jeff Gerstmann, if you don't know who he is the lead dude, if you will, at Giant Bomb. He says this in a tweet a couple of days ago, responding to this. The whole Series S is holding back next generation games argument seems really broken to me. Most of these games also come to PC and already have to cover a wide variety of configs. Like, go look at the Steam hardware survey sometimes. Lots of older stuff with significant percentages that are being used for lesser specs. And that's exactly what you said specifically just moments ago. And it's pretty interesting. Look, I mean, do you have anything else you want to add to the conversation? Because I want to bring in Daniel on this. I know Daniel.
No, I don't want to take up too much time from Daniel, but just one more thing.
Sure.
Yeah, it's like just a few moments ago, we had the chance in the interview with Keoken, and we to ask them why they do a cross-gen release, because obviously it's a lot more work to optimize for all these different systems. And they literally said, yes, of course it takes a little bit more effort, but it is technically possible, and there are a lot of tools, and they are a super small team, but there are tools that allow you to do that these days. And just because a developer like for Gotham Knights did decide to not use the tools available, it doesn't mean that a Series S console is a potato. It's a fantastic value proposition to enter current gen gaming. So yeah, that's my view on this. But Danny, I'm excited to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, you know what, Daniel, I do want to bring up a conversation that went on. And again, we don't throw people under the bus here, and I don't want lynch mobs going after folks. So that's why I don't really give people's names, even if they're a developer, because I don't want to be responsible for any kind of bullying that would go on. But it was discussed that some developers hang around in this big group of developers. And it was suggested that they're trying to figure out a way to get Microsoft to abandon the Series S console and only work with the Xbox Series X. Because if you didn't know, folks, the Microsoft's rules for releasing games on their platform is that you have to, if it's going to be next gen, let's just say only, it must release for the Xbox Series S and Series X. Which means that if you are a developer, you must develop for both of these platforms. Now, if it's coming out for the Series X and S, it's likely that it's going to come out on PC. So you're going to be working on a plethora of releases across a broad spectrum. Daniel, when you hear that kind of stupidity, and that's really all it can be called, is that a group of developers are going to try and force Microsoft to abandon the most affordable console in a time where money is hard to come by. Everything is getting expensive. And again, Microsoft has figured out a way to release a very, very proper next-gen console in the Series S that delivers 1440p, on many of the games that are coming out at 2140p on the X and the PlayStation 5, and the games look just as good. How are you expecting that more than half, and Microsoft has reported this, more than half of their next-gen consoles are the Series S? Should we just abandon these gamers? What's wrong with these developers, and what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, so we've heard, we've been hearing since before it was out that like there's just certain people who really want to believe that the Series S is holding back game development, which is ludicrous, right? I mean, yes, it is less powerful, but it's less powerful in all of the ways that you could very easily just make a game that's for, PS5, Xbox Series X, and just scale it down for the S, right? And they're not even that disparate that you wouldn't be able to do the same like game design elements or anything like that. Like, yes, one is significantly more powerful than the other, but not to the point where they are incompatible, right? And it's insane to me that people want to point specifically to the Series S as being the problem for why games are performing poorly or why they're being held back, when it's like, okay, well, let's look at the rest of the industry right now. It's like, okay, if there's a third-party game and it's launching on the Switch, like, what are we talking about? Like,
no, exactly, because really the Switch is probably the lowest common denominator, even on PC for that matter.
It's certainly down there, right, in terms of just raw performance. And then we're looking at, the new games coming out on the PlayStation side of thing, and of course they believe in generations, so they're still launching every game on the PS4. The Series S is more powerful than the PS4, so we're still working on being above that. And then, as Box said, on the PC side, specifically for Gotham Knights, the recommended or the like lowest setting that you need is a 1060 Ti, right? Which is a very old card, and I will say also an unusually powerful card for what the lowest specs for most games on PC are. My computer has like a 10, I think it's like a 1040, like it's nothing, right? And I'm still able to play pretty much any games that I want to on my PC. Not well, but they run, right? So there are so many lower SKUs that people are making games for than the Series S. Like people always want to talk about whatever 1090 Ti, whatever it was. Sorry, I saw somebody in the chat correct me, and they were right too. But the point is, like, if we are talking about like what the highest and lowest SKUs are, both of those are PC. I know people don't want to admit that, and especially people probably who are watching or listening to this podcast probably won't want to admit that, because if you are a PC player who is enough of a gamer to be watching podcasts about video games, then probably you have a pretty good rig. But I'm sorry to tell you, hey, you guys who are going to be upgrading to the 40 series in the next year and a half, you are by far the minority. The overwhelming majority of people who game on PC are playing on PCs that are laughably weak. They are literally potatoes, right? And that's what game developers are going to be developing towards, is they want to make sure that the widest amount of people are going to be able to play the game. They're not going to, spend all their time making sure like, oh, hey, this game is for the 40 series cards or whatever. Like, that's just not how it works. And specifically in the case of Gotham Knights, I don't even think that this is a hardware problem, right? Because we are looking at this game and it's just not optimized well, right? The fact that the lowest necessary card for it is high, significantly higher than usual. The fact that even on, like, Paris Lilly was talking about how he's got it on his super high rig computer and it's barely holding 60, like, it's just not a well optimized game. I don't know why people immediately jump to like, it must be the Series S's fault, instead of like, maybe the game's just not great. Like, I don't know how people connect these dots.
It's interesting. So I want to bring some Boxenberg. I know you got to get out of here in about 30 minutes. So right after this topic, we're going to go into Hellblade because I want to get your opinion on that. But Josh, I want to bring you into the conversation. But before I do, just for schematics, let me break down an article that I pulled regarding 120 FPS support. Now, this is an older article, so I would imagine the list for both has gotten bigger. But the list that I have in front of me right now on the article is just to give everyone an idea of the prowess that is the Xbox Series S, the potato as it's known to many people in the community. The PlayStation 5 currently has, and again, this is an older list, so maybe it's more. But bear with me. According to this list, has only 20 games that are available with 120 frames per second support. Now, we know God of War Ragnarok is going to offer that, and that's amazing, and I'm sure a lot of their first-party stuff does as well. But what's interesting here, folks, is the Xbox Series X and, of course, the talk of the town right now, the Xbox Series S, Josh. This list has 86 games, literally 4-1. 4-1. The Series S, the little guy, the little brother of the Series X, can play 4 times more games in 120 frames per second than the PlayStation 5. Josh, when you hear that, what do you say about what these developers are calling the Series S a potato, or the key factor to holding back the new generation of console gaming?
It's just shocking, honestly. Like, it's shocking. You would think they would know better. And you guys immediately went to the Switch. I mean, playing either of the Doom games on the Switch. Like, if you love Clay Fighter, by all means play any modern game on Switch, unless you want to try the Cloud, right? Which is not great either. So it's so bizarre hearing statements like this. Like, the machine, they were all people could find for a while, right? I had a buddy who that's all he had was his Series S. That thing, it was a little powerhouse. It was killer. But I brought my Series X over, and he was like, "Okay, I can see a few differences here, but like at the end of the day, it was still getting the job done." You know, I'm recommending to a ton of people this year. They're wondering what gifts to get their kids, or what, the Series S with the Xbox All Access. Like, what a fantastic Christmas that's going to be for so many kids this year. And so, why it ends up being the scapegoat for games like Gotham, it doesn't make any sense.
It actually doesn't make any sense. I find it to be a bit of. I put it to this way: I'm not a developer, folks. You know that I'm not a tech guy, even remotely pretending. I do know the basic of how you make a game, but I couldn't tell you, if something is a potato or not. I just don't have those skills, and I'm okay with that. But I am going to say that anyone in the development community that comes out and says something as preposterous as that is embarrassing themselves. Like, if I say it, you're like, that BoomStick, you don't know what the hell he's talking about. He's never developed a game. But to have an actual game developer come out and suggest that this console, which is a next-gen console and can currently play more games than the PlayStation 5, the god-tier console that everyone thinks is the greatest thing since sliced bread, 4 times more games in 120 frames per second is just you embarrass yourself. And a lot of these devs that came out, and there wasn't a lot of them, it was like maybe 4 different devs from different studios came out and had to retract their statements, because not because they were getting hate, because their statements were wrong. Specifically, like a guy from Rockstar commented on Gotham Knights, and he didn't work on the game. I don't know if that's such a smart thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, you kind of really paint yourself into a bit of a corner when you say stupid things like that. But listen, it is what it is. You know, people are going to be knuckleheads and they think they're going to get their 15 minutes of fame on social media. If that's how you want to do it, good on you for doing it. I will never do that because, well, I have more pride and a sense of giving the right information if I have it in front of me to the community, not being a knucklehead or a fanboy. Boxenberger, I want to move on to the next topic, which is why I'm really glad you're still here. And we're going to be talking about Hellblade 2 specifically because it was put out there by Ninja Theory that they are bringing some massive new tech to this game. And obviously, the way that they are slowly developing this game means it's going to be something special. They are taking their time for good reason. When Hellblade 2 finally releases, and a lot of people like myself believe it's going to release holiday of next year. At least that's what I'm banking on. It is going to be what a lot of people like Cognito from the Iron Lords, the hashtag just one, that over-the-shoulder, story-driven, real-life graphics. I think we're going to get it because Ninja Theory is one of the best in the business. But before I do, I just have to catch up with some of the super chats. Brett Bingham,
since I have to leave in literally like 10 minutes.
Oh,
I have
okay, yeah.
Bring my car to the workshop.
Yes. You know what? Let's actually get to that.
Yeah.
And let me pull up the show notes here. Boxenberger, you have been someone in the corner of Ninja Theory since they were acquired. You think that it was probably one of the best acquisitions in 2018, and I absolutely agree. I think that they are on the line, and maybe not in the size, but certainly in the talent of something like Naughty Dog. Please explain to the audience here what kind of tech that they're bringing. How big of a deal is the movie-esque tech that they're bringing to tell this next chapter in Senua's saga, as it's called?
Yeah, see, for those who didn't see it, Ninja Theory is posting on a regular basis, like tech updates, like little dev diaries or little snippets that give you a peek behind the curtain and in how they want to do things. And one thing that they talked about over the weekend was that they bring anamorphic lenses to Hellblade 2. For those who don't know what that are, like literally regular lenses are round lenses, and they are giving you the classic look that you know from TV. But sometimes big movies, especially when they shot for IMAX, for instance, they use anamorphic lenses which round out the corners of the lens, and that give you like this extreme, beautiful, smooth, wide shot. So whenever you see like these scenes where you have like a lot of environment in the background and give that painterly look to a scene, and usually in movies people use anamorphic lenses. And since they want to go for that epic look, that epicness that is provided by these shots, they've decided to implement that in the engine and make that work in the game. And that's what they talked about. You can find that on their Twitter account. I think they also posted it to their YouTube account. So I highly recommend to check that out. And boom, it just tells you that Ninja Theory is striving for a technical masterpiece. If you're looking for that true next-gen experience, it's gonna be Hellblade. It's gonna be this incredible showcase. Everything we've seen so far. It just tells you that Ninja Theory wants to push the limits of what is technically possible. And the interesting thing is they do that with this super small team. It blows my mind what Ninja Theory does with a developer team of around 50 people, which is relatively small for AAA development. Like we are watching here Call of Duty, and you know how many thousands of people are working on a Call of Duty game.
I mean, dude, there's like 8 studios, for crying out loud. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's not counting all the freelancers that they hire and stuff. Yeah. So, it's incredible that they have such a small core development team for that game and still try to push the limits, what is technically possible. Just recently, they talked about how they use AI-generated audio for as placeholder content during development to get better feeling for pacing and stuff like that. We also know that they use machine learning for physics simulation, like that big troll we have seen in the trailer. All that fat flapping around was based on physics-based AI, and all that combined, you have now a different lens in Unreal Engine that they implemented to get that wide shot views in there. It doesn't stop with Ninja Theory. They always push the technical limitations to the limits. They push forward what is technically possible, and I love that. I truly love that. I'm super excited to see the final result, because if anyone is looking for that true next gen showpiece, that game when your buddies come over and hey, what can a Series X really do? But that's Hellblade 2. That's gonna be Hellblade 2. And boom, the only thing I want to know is, when can we finally play it?
I mean, if you had to take a stab at it before you get on out of here, when do you think we actually see this game? Because you and I both agree that this game was in some sort of pre-production back in 2018 when they were announced as being acquired. And I think that the reason why they were acquired originally was because Microsoft saw what they were doing behind the scenes. We heard that with Obsidian. We heard that with In Exile. We heard that with Playground Games. They were working on an open world RPG that eventually was turned into Fable. So they had this game in some sort of form or factor. And when are you on the same page as me that you think that this finally gets released at the end of next year?
Yeah, holiday 23, that would have been my guess as well. I mean, if we look at a couple of facts, they said themselves that they took a short break after releasing the first one, and then they already started to work out ideas and concept for the second one. So you can literally do the math yourself, how long this game has been in development. They have shown Hellblade 2 at the Game Awards 2019. 2019, along with the console, they have revealed that game, and ever since we have gotten on a regular basis like development updates and such. We have seen gameplay, more or less the only gameplay we've seen from those newly acquired studios, outside of course of the Bethesda games, that we've seen at the Game Awards 2021. So I think Hellblade is gonna be a 23 title. They've resumed full production after the COVID issues at the end of last year, and I have the feeling that it's in 23. It's gonna be the time for Hellblade 2.
I absolutely agree. Well, listen, brother, thank you so much for being here. I know you got to bounce.
I'm going to be there for the full show again, but my son broke the seatbelt in the car, and now we can't use the seatbelt anymore. And I have to take it to the workshop. So, truly sorry for bailing out. But have an awesome show left, and I see you guys next week.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. And don't forget to check out his interview with the developers of Bring Us the Moon, which was an amazing game. Deliver Us the Moon, and then they have the sequel releasing. I believe is it releasing this year?
On February 2nd.
Okay, so it's next year. Okay, excellent.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Boxenberger. Enjoy the rest of your day, brother. Be safe. We'll talk soon.
Have a great show. See you soon.
All right, brother. We're gonna see if we can get Wandering Dutch in here momentarily to kind of round out the last conversation, which we're gonna talk about the potential of a Fable Trilogy Reboot being made, or an HD, or remaster, if you will. This is something that I've been banging the drum. We're going to get into that momentarily. But Daniel McGee, let's get you in on the conversation here. Ninja Theory, obviously one of the premier studios at Xbox Game Studios. They know how to make games that are telling an incredible story. They look movie-esque. And when you hear the new tech that they're using, both in sound and design, what are your expectations? Is this going to be the hashtag just one that many gamers like myself and Cognito from the Iron Lords have been waiting for?
Yeah, I mean, I think it certainly has that potential. I think anyone who's played the first Hellblade knows how really unique that game is, how really special the idea of that is. If like we were talking about earlier, if Obsidian is Xbox's answer to Insomniac, then Ninja Theory is their answer to like Sony Santa Monica. You know what I mean? Is their Hellblade 2 is, to my knowledge, I think, is going to be the first game that Xbox is putting out that's entirely Unreal Engine 5. So that's going to be something to see, right? We're going to see. It might be the first game to put, if depending on how early next year it comes out. It might be the first game we see that was developed on Unreal Engine 5. I think. I don't know if anything else has come out for that.
Is Hellblade? Is Redfall Unreal Engine 5? Does anyone know in the chat?
I'm not sure. Yeah,
not sure. I'll look that up real quick.
Yeah, but so it's going to have that going for it. It's Ninja Theory was always a good studio, but the first Hellblade game, I think, really put them into sort of the public eye in a way that they hadn't been before. And so I really think that they're going to spend, I think them understanding that, I think they're going to really, really hammer home this game. I think that they know how important this game is to them, and they're going to make sure that it pays off. I also think that this is, I might be wrong on this, I think this is going to be one of Xbox's first exclusives that is not also on the Xbox One, if I'm correct on that. Yeah. I don't think Hellblade 2 is currently announced to show up on Xbox One.
No, I believe it's next generation. And just to confirm, Redfall is in fact using Unreal Engine 5.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Never mind then. I didn't think so. Regardless, though, I think it's going to be something very special. I think that most likely we're going to end up seeing it at Game Awards this year. I mean, I think every time we've seen it pretty much so far has been at one of the Game Awards, because it's been shown, over so many years now. I'm pretty sure, I know that's where we got the initial release, or reveal rather, and I'm pretty sure that's where we got the gameplay one that everyone was like, "This isn't gameplay, it's CGI." And I'm like, "Yeah, welcome to this style of game, my guy." So I would be surprised if we didn't see it at the Game Awards this year, and I think that's where we're going to get its release date. And I look at that game and it feels like a cold weather game. You know what I mean? So I really do think it's going to be like October into the end of the year next year when it does release.
I mean, that makes sense. Again, well, first of all, the thing that we can look at for sure is that Microsoft has a stacked deck up front in 2023. Besides, what we already know, there might be an additional surprise or two towards the end of the year. So I would imagine that could potentially fit the bill, considering that it's been in development since they announced the acquisition in 2018, and we know that they've been working on it ever since. Even with the pandemic that happened, they were still working on it. It seems as if that could be one of those end of year releases, and I think it would be a big one for sure. But N64, Josh, let's get your opinion on this, brother. Where do you personally fall on Ninja Theory's Hellblade with the new tech? Obviously, you do a lot on TikTok, you do a lot on your own channel, you do a lot with your Nintendo shows. This is tech, and what they're bringing to the table is next level. It is what's used in Hollywood currently. And it is a big deal for the game that is going to see a release to a sequel that was a BAFTA award-winning game. And obviously, they told an incredible story with the use of the visuals that they had when it first launched on the PlayStation 4, eventually coming to the Xbox. And now this is going to be an Xbox and PC exclusive, which I'm very excited for, because, again, a lot of folks in the Xbox community want that third-person, story-driven type of game. They're using Unreal Engine 5. We know that for an absolute fact. Where do you personally feel? Where does your excitement level land when you talk about Ninja Theory's sequel to, again, the award-winning Hellblade?
I love the fact that they're introducing new tech. Like as somebody that works in like production and doing videography, things like that, the next step honestly is anamorphic lenses for me and the guy that I work with. And so hearing this, like, it gets the nerd in me very excited, right, to see what they're going to do, what they're going to pull off, what are some of these landscapes going to look like, what are some of these shots going to look like, how is it going to really take us into the next, or I guess the current generation. But yeah, I think you guys understand what I'm saying. Backtracking a little bit on what you guys were talking about, it is not going to be on the Xbox One. If you're going to play it on the older consoles, you're going to have to do it via cloud gaming. It's so they are going to be pushing this one to its it could be one of the first games that we really see pushing the limits, or at least starting to really showcase what the Series S and the Series X are capable of. So that's all very exciting. I mean, these kind of announcements are headline worthy, right? They get the buzz going, they get people talking, and that's good. When do we see this game? Hopefully next holiday, hopefully, fingers crossed.
It would be nice. I mean, when you consider, Josh, that we haven't even hit the holiday in 2022, like we're still in October. We still have November, which is probably when it would launch. So technically, from now to then, they have almost an entire year before they have to admit they've gone gold. I think by then they will have more than enough time. And again, I'm not a developer, so I really can't say how far along that they are. They're not. But I think that, considering that the game has been in development for many years, you got to wonder if it's close. And if they're going to do polishing and they're going to add different sound technology to it, and really bring this to movie like, they're going to spend a significant amount of time on polish to deliver that type of experience. So I'm with you. I think that this is definitely fall of next year.
Yeah, and take all the time they need, right? That's it. This needs to be one of the Xbox titles that launches, that doesn't have any egg on the face.
Yeah.
Come out, run smooth, look good, incredible story, incredible sound design, graphically be a masterpiece, and that would be a big win for Xbox.
Yeah, it absolutely would. And I agree. I think it would be, again, at that point, we don't know, and we're all assuming that the ABK deal is going to be done well before the summer of 2023. So once that's out of the way, and Microsoft, is going to announce to the world that they did in fact acquire these incredible, Activision Blizzard King, you're going to want, that premier, quote unquote, premier show-stopping title to sell your console in the holiday of next year. And this could potentially be that game. And the fact that it's going into the Xbox Game Pass day and date is just bonkers. But let me catch up on some of the super chats, and then we will get to the last topic of the day. Now, but folks, because we have a smaller panel, we're probably going to shut down the show a few minutes before. Normally, it's a 2-hour show. But like I said, today was one of those days where we just had a tough time getting people, because everyone had something going on, and it's perfectly fine. We're going to deliver 4 topics as we do, as always. Brett Bingham, a good friend of the generous friend of the program, just a $5 super chat, and says they need a New Vegas 2. The OG New Vegas was the only Fallout you can throw a javelin in. See, I didn't even remember that, to be honest with you. It's been a while since I played that. Kirby Zero Louise, generous friend and developer of the in the industry, says this after dropping a very generous $10 super chat. If those devs don't want to support the Xbox Series S, they can go PlayStation 5 or PC only. That is how you correctly voice your issue to Microsoft. Microsoft took a risk of this happening with the Xbox Series S. Let the hand of the market do its work. And I think that he's onto something with that. I think that, you don't go out there and cut your nose off to spite your face because you're playing some sort of stupid console war shenanigans, especially in the business of development, where the last thing you want to do is get yourself blacklisted or blackballed, if you will, and nobody wants to hire you for console war stupidity. I don't get it. Again, the maturity for some people doesn't match their age, and I find that to be ridiculous, to be honest with you. Keo Walker, who's been a member for 17 months, says 1080p gaming is mostly CPU bound, and the Series S CPU is more than enough for that, indeed. And Keo Walker drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, Age of Empires officially announced for console. Yeah, we'll be talking about that on Friday's new episode of Breakfast with Boom, because that is a big deal. See, again, I've never played Age of Empires, not my bag. I like RTS, but I don't know if I would dig that, being that it's going to be on console, being that it's going to be on Xbox Game Pass. I will certainly give it the old college effort. But what I want to do, folks, is look, remakes and remasters was a thing that we saw very, very prominent in the Xbox 360 PS3 era, right? So when the new consoles were launched, we didn't expect we would see the same thing. We expected it would be a lot of sequels to a lot of the games that we played on the older generation consoles. But the one thing that Sony has done, and I have to bring Sony in because, well, they are known as the remaster station. Now, for better or for worse, they do take their IPs and they do re-release them. We've seen this time and time again. Now, is it a cash grab? Some people might suggest so. Something like The Last of Us, the original. After seeing a PS3 launch, then a PS4 remaster of that, and then a remaster of the remaster on PC, and now the remastered on the PlayStation 5. Look, it's a thing. It's a thing. I don't agree with a game that is relatively new getting remastered. I think that's ridiculous, and could be suggested as a just clearly a cash grab. But one of the things that I want to talk about, and again, this is one of those self-made topics because I'm such a fan of the series. Fable, we know is in current is an active development. We don't know how long that is before that game releases, Daniel. It could be next year, unlikely though. It's probably holiday of 2024. That's what a lot of people are saying. That, listen, get it done right. If you're going to put it out there, just do what you have to do to make sure that this is one of those monumental releases that changes what people think about Xbox development, right? That's what you're looking for here. More so though, Daniel, Fable is an IP that saw incredible success that started out on the OG Xbox, right? And then obviously it was released on the Xbox 360. And there are a lot of gamers that don't know what Fable is, right? They don't know anything about the game, about its history, about how big of a trilogy it was. And considering that Playground Games is hard at work on the I guess you can call it a reboot of the franchise, my question to you is, with remasters and remakes being so prevalent in this era of gaming, is it potentially in the best interest of Microsoft to find a team that could remake at least the original, or if you really want to go crazy, remake the entire trilogy so that gamers who don't know who this franchise is has an opportunity to play the original games and and have a sense of, oh, I'm really looking forward to Fable Reboot now because I got a chance to play the trilogy. And I kind of want to bring the chat in on the conversation. Do me a favor, man. Throw one in the chat if you want to see a remastered trilogy, or two if you don't. Josh, Daniel, what are your thoughts on this?
So I definitely give PlayStation a lot of guff for the way that they're handling their remakes and remasters, in that it seems to be their primary thing that they're doing currently. It feels like they're remaking a lot of games that don't really need to be remade, and then whenever somebody else is doing a remake, they buy up exclusivity for it. Like it feels like most of their really notable third-party exclusive deals that they have going, like KOTOR remake, Silent Hill 2, Final Fantasy 7, are all remakes. If I'm like, I mean, I know they have other ones. Obviously, they have like Forspoken and Final Fantasy 16 as well. But like, it feels like somebody at a boardroom in PlayStation HQ just wrote remaster remaster PS2 on like a huge whiteboard. And it was just like, there it is, guys, do it. Remaster everything. That being said, I do think that there's a ton of franchises over on the Xbox side of things that I think are kind of in desperate need of a remake. Fable certainly could use it. I think that's sort of what the Playground game is going to be. You know, I don't think it's going to be, obviously like, hey, this is just Fable 1 again. But I think it'll be sort of, like a reboot sort of situation, kind of in the vein of like not like Final Fantasy 7, but where they're going to take the ideas of maybe the original franchise and change them to make them more modern. So I don't know necessarily that we need a whole trilogy of Fable remakes. I think a remake of like Fable 1 would be a good place to start, though. People have been, to take it back to the Fallout side of things, people have been asking for a remake of Fallout 1 and 2. I think at this point we could use a remake of Fallout 3, maybe even New Vegas, because it's been that long. And they're like at least one engine, maybe two behind at this point. Because I know, because Fallout 4 is on the same engine as Fallout 3. It just looks way better. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's significantly far behind all of those games. I would love if they made a version of Morrowind that was playable, because Morrowind had a lot of really interesting choices that make it really hard to get into if you weren't into it back in the day.
Yeah.
I think that Xbox definitely needs to be, if they haven't already started, looking into, hey, we now own so many beloved IP. It would be a really good idea for them to kind of do, honestly, what Embracer is doing, and being like, here's a remake of this just to test the waters. Hey,
I agree.
Do people care about this franchise still? And then if they do, then maybe make a brand new game, right? I wouldn't be surprised if they start doing that either. I don't know exactly what franchises would do it. I think Spyro is probably going to be high on that list after the Activision deal goes through.
Well, Spyro and Crash made bank for them. They sold very well with their and they weren't remakes. They weren't remasters. They were actual from the ground up remakes. They were leaps and bounds better than the originals, and they sold very well. So yeah, you're making some great points.
I think so. Yeah, I think there's absolutely room for remakes, despite how much I like to make fun of PlayStation for doing it to the point of almost nausea. Remakes are a thing that are important to the industry, right? Like, it's important to remind people of these franchises and to take ones that are, sort of falling behind to history and catch them up. And I know that some people probably disagree with that, because there's certain games where, like, people have tried to remake or remaster it and it has not gone well, like the original Silent Hill 2 remaster, where they took the fog out because they just completely misunderstood what Silent Hill was. But in conclusion, yes, I think so. I think a Fable remaster or remake would be a really great thing to have. I just don't know whether or not we would, or whether internally Microsoft is already kind of thinking about the new Fable game as that. You know what I mean?
I mean, you do make a lot of sense. And obviously, what they don't want to do is, muck up the water or the excitement for the reboot that is coming from Playground Games, right? You don't want to take any shade. And I agree with you. To remake or remaster a trilogy, that might be a little much. But just and Josh, I want to bring you in on a conversation just for optics here. They did release a Fable Anniversary which of course was it was they upped the graphics a little bit from the OG Xbox to the Xbox 360. But from there though, and again, this is just for optics. The original Fable, guys, launched on September 14th of 2004 on the OG Xbox. They then 10 years later released the Fable Anniversary, which came out on February 4th of 2014. Now we are still in 2022. Obviously, we're not. A lot of people in the community are not expecting Fable to come until 2024 or even 2025. At this point, to Daniel's point of view, do you take Fable Anniversary and give it the full remake from the ground up? Give that to another studio that's not Playground to, again, introduce the fan base to the Fable universe?
I'm all about it. Like it doing what you just said would be ideal, right? Like a full-on remake. To just remaster it, I don't know that that's really what we need, because you can go and play the games right now on Game Pass. If it was a complete, like, very similar to Final Fantasy VII, right? That if they gave it that kind of treatment, that would be phenomenal. I'm of the mind that I love being able to have at my fingertips all of the games in the series, right? For instance, Metroid Prime 4, we know, is being developed for the Switch. That trilogy would be great to have on the Switch ahead of time, because that's been a series that's been so long forgotten that nobody has played it since the Wii era, right? So that's kind of where I lay on this, or where I side on this topic, is like, since we can play the Fable games, that's great. Then just an HD, remaster, let's avoid that. But if they want to get some other studios involved and do a full on remake, or at least make it worth the time to go back into it, that there's enough upgrades and maybe enough quality of life fixes and some better lighting and graphical upgrades, that's really that's what I feel would really benefit the series and get people excited to play play it again, or play it for the first time before the new game launches, especially if it's 2 years out. If it's a minimum 2 years out, then absolutely. If this can be done relatively easy, then yeah, hire some more studios, or contract it out, whatever the case may be, and start marketing this game with the remakes, because that first game is a game that everybody should play. If you have an Xbox and you have Game Pass, you definitely should play it. But if there's word that Fable may be getting a remake, then it's tough saying hold out for something we don't know that's coming. But I would gladly jump back in again, just to, because that was so quirky. Do you guys remember doing YMCA in that game? Like,
yes.
There's some quirky stuff.
There's some humor in the Fable series, the original trilogy, that I don't necessarily think will translate well in this era of gaming, which is why I have been on the fence on whether or not you bring Fable back, but you kind of change it somewhat. I know there's a lot of people against it. Like Zemi Games, who used to be a part of the show, he's against removing the chicken kicking and the fart making that you found in the original, which I guess is okay. Me personally, I kind of want to mix. Like, I don't want that to be completely washed away. I'd like some subtle hints and inferences towards it, but I kind of want my adult themed swashbuckling, if you will. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what you guys feel about that.
Yeah, it's a more of an M-rated Zelda, right? Like I'm let's do it. Let's take it up a notch. And I mean, honestly, I don't know. We know Rare's doing Sea of Thieves, but like I kind of wonder what they would do with Fable personally. Just after seeing Sea of Thieves and the swashbuckling and the pirate life, if you will, I wonder what they could do with something like that. But the more mature themes, I'm okay with it. And you could refer to yourself as the legend of the chicken kicker, if you will, because wasn't that one of the
that was one of the names you can add for you. So yeah, it was for stuff like that. Yeah. Look, I don't know, Daniel. I mean, real quick, before we get we do the outros and get everyone out of here. I mean, where do you fall on the presentation of Playground's Fable? Do you feel that it needs to retain some of its humor, all of its humor, or do you want a little bit of a mix of both?
I think it needs to be funny, but I feel like it can be funny in a new way.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
You can leave chicken kicking in there because I feel like that's classic, right? Like you can't get rid of that. The bit where you like intimidate people by farting in their faces, I don't think that's gonna hold up well. I really don't think people are gonna respond well to that in 2023 or 4 or whatever when that game comes out. Like it's just I feel like fart jokes, they had their time in the sun and now it's over, right? I would be more interested in seeing Playground put their own spin on it and sort of being funny in their own way and maybe taking it a little bit more seriously than the old Fables, which did, of course, get serious. But I think that when I look at Playground specifically and I look at the games that, the Forza games that they've done in the past, and we see sort of the trailer and sort of the level of fidelity that we're expecting from this game at this point, right? Is I don't think we're expecting to see, cartoony characters with weird proportions like the original Fables. And so I feel like if also in a game where people look like real human beings, you grab somebody by the head and fart in their face, I just don't think that's going to read well.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. I mean, look, there are a lot of people in here. Master Jazz, a friend of the program, says that if you remove the humor from Fable, it's really not Fable. And to some extent, I agree. I just think that if there is going to be that kind of humor, it can't be the whole game. It's got to be some subtle instances to give us references to the old trilogy. But you got to remember the original game came out in 2004. The Fable Anniversary came in 2014, and now we're going to be potentially in 2024, 2025. I mean, it's going to have old school appeal for people that have been with Xbox for many, many years, but that's not who that's not who you only want buying the game or playing the game. You want people that like The Witcher, that like games of that ilk to get involved in it. I think I put it to this way. I think that it's going to be a hard nut to crack, so to speak, with the balance. I don't know. I wouldn't want the responsibility on trying to make this game both appealing to new RPG fans and old RPG fans of Fable alike. But needless to say, I think that it is going to be. I think it's going to be a game that is going to be like Hellblade. It's going to deliver graphically. It's going to be open world. It is going to be a game that we talk about for many, many years. And again, it's one of those Xbox games that we have all been asking for, that we see a lot on Sony's machine. In regards to, like, for instance, is it going to be as big as Horizon? I honestly couldn't tell you. I don't know what the scope of this game is going to be, but I would imagine it's going to be potentially as big. And if that's the case, I want to be able to have your main missions. I want a lot of side quests, and I want a lot of things you can find by just exploring the world. I hope that's the way that they go, but only time is going to tell. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say this. Thank you so much for tuning in. We had over 400 people here for today's new episode of the Xbox Factor podcast. We did get to 4 topics. Unfortunately, we had an issue with with some of the panel members that couldn't be here today, so that's why it's ending a little bit early. Obviously, before you get out of here, please consider hitting that like button. If you are someone that's finding the channel for the first time, please consider subscribing to the channel. And let's get everyone out of here. And we'll start first with N64 Josh, Mr. TikTok himself. Brother, sell your brand. Tell everyone where they can catch you playing Mario Kart with 100 other players, and where can people reach out to you on social media, and what you got going on with your YouTube channel.
Yeah, guys, I'm N64 Josh everywhere. Been writing more articles on n64josh.com. The Nintendo Powercast has been getting multiple shows a week, and streaming on TikTok and Twitch and YouTube as well. And I think there's actually going to be some new a new Pokemon side project in the works, just because of the hype cycle of Pokemon and how massive it is. So stay tuned for that. I love to just chat and talk games, whether it be on Twitter, Discord, wherever you might find me. And yeah, thanks so much for having me. It's so good to be back.
Well, it's great to have you back, brother. And real quick, Raiden Blade drops a £2 super chat and says, if Fable 1 and 2 are remade, I will need an underwear change. That is hilarious. But Daniel McGee, sell your brand, brother. Talk about your channel, where they can subscribe to it, where they could reach out to you on social media, and what you got going on in the background.
Absolutely. So you can find me on Twitter at Daniel J. McGee, or on YouTube at just Daniel McGee. Right now I'm working on a real big project that's I'm hoping to be able to get out as soon as possible. I keep running into delays with it because if you've watched my content before, you know I overthink everything. I've certainly been doing that on this one. But just recently put up a video talking about some of the news going on in the games industry. I'm trying to probably get some more content out more regularly over on the channel. So give it a swing by. Let me know if you see anything you like, or if you have anything that you would like to see. Feel free to DM me. It's always open. It was great having you guys to talk to today, especially having Josh back. We missed you, man.
Well, it's great to have everyone back, and like I said, we'll be back to full staff next week. Obviously, it just was one of those podcasts where a lot of people had a lot of things going on. Umbra wasn't feeling good, so of course we hope he feels better soon. Obviously, Boxenberger had his car issues, and both Mav and Pong had work-related issues. So, like I said, we should get everyone back next week, so don't sweat that. But again, I want to thank all the super chats that have come in. Those continue to power the show, and we definitely appreciate that, and the channel memberships, as well as, of course, all the support by you hitting that like button. And of course, I'm going to close out today's show, folks, with something that's important to me. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught me with kids. And he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Factor Podcast.